father didn't go to school long. He was from the Bronx in New York. I think he was maybe educated till his freshman year of high school, but he educated himself musically and ended up becoming an arranger and a conductor for Nat King Cole. And what the arrangers do is they basically write all the music for 55-piece big band, and then he's conducting. Now, you know, cut to, he's been doing that for many years. He's 33, and then my mother dropped out of UCLA to go sing with a group of young singers with Nat called the Merry Young Souls. And they met, you know, they fell in love, and they got married, and I got born into it. Musical, you know, influence has really been there for me probably before baseball influence. I remember being in Las Vegas. I lived there until I was 6, but I remember being in Las Vegas at the age of maybe 4 or 5. There was trombones and French horns laying around, and my father and mother got me a small drum set that fit my, you know, my smaller frame at that point. But, you know, because of my father and mother's musical background in jazz and with Nat King Cole and all that stuff, I think me and my 2 sisters were just so blessed to be able to be born into something where we could hear, you know, what music kind of was. We moved from Las Vegas when I was 6, and up to that point I was just more about soccer and football. And then we went to San Diego. I remember there was a T-ball, you know, league, and we signed up for it. And, you know, I remember the first day so well still. I think I was 6 or 7, but I ran out to that little circle in the middle, not even knowing that there was, you know, that circle was irrelevant at that level, except just being a fielder. But I just like to be, for some reason, I like to be in the middle of the field, and played a year of T-ball and went up to the next level, which was caps, and started throwing my curveball that year when I was 7. And that was kind of how it all started. Draft day for me, I was at USC. I was 21, and I remember specifically there was, you know, for any kid that's about to get drafted, there's all the expectations, which slot, you know, which pick. You know, you have kind of these silent conversations with different teams or scouts, and you get an indication of where you might go and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I had a slight indication that the A's were going to take me, but I knew guys from the past that had dropped, you know, 50 slots, you know, ended up being in the 2nd round or even the 3rd when they thought they were going to be in the 1st. So I had not a huge expectation, but my name got called on the 9th pick. For me, music really took a big step in my life when I picked up a guitar for the first time. And that was the same year I got drafted by the A's, actually. I knew I was going to be in hotel rooms most of my hours in the day. And so I just bought this Celebrity Ovation guitar, and I started playing, and I think after a year and a half, I knew how to, like, basically tune the guitar, and that was it. But that's where it all really started for me. Having the guitar with me and just something I could bring on the bus trips, you know, in the Cal League or whatever minor league, you know, city I was in, it was a sense of comfort. It was something I could come home to that was kind of routine, or maybe something I could rely on. I mean, going up through the levels of the minor leagues, you're kind of not really friends with anyone. You kind of get this vibe like we're all competing against each other. It's definitely different coming from college and, you know, going into a professional baseball. It's really like each man for himself in a lot of ways. I mean, of course, you're still a team, but the guy that's friends with you, that's starting the game before you, is hoping that you fail, you know, so he can get pushed up a level. And my guitar, you know, was just this kind of solitude that I could come home to every day.
Strikeout here would be huge.
Here it comes. He struck him out, a swing and a miss. Holy Toledo.
I think my years with the A's was kind of, you know, most like, I'll say, I guess it was autopilot in a lot of ways. I was in college, I went to the next level, A-ball, AA, AAA, big leagues. It was just kind of business as usual coming up through the ranks. Hadn't really encountered a huge amount of struggle. So at least my rookie year and the playoffs in 2000, you know, was kind of that autopilot. And I think in 2001, through the first 4 months, I had, you know, had a tough time and kind of struggled and did some pretty, you know, cool things over a period of 4 or 5 days with my dad in the end of July of that year, and ended up having, you know, a great couple months, that next couple months. And then the next year was a Cy Young, so I was really locked in, you know, for about almost a year and a half.
Presenting Barry with his Cy Young Award is 1971 Cy Young Award winner and A's legend, Vida Blue.
And then even the next year, 03, was again, just kind of riding that wave. I got back on the wave somehow, we rode it. And then '04 was, I think, my worst year as an A, and that was kind of the time when I got out of autopilot and started to try to figure things out, but probably thought too much about it. And then, you know, '05, '06 was pretty good. So I think as a whole, just wasn't like, I wasn't consciously competent. I guess there's a saying that you go from unconscious competence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence. And so that's kind of where I came later in my career, I think. But through the A's, you know, it was an unconscious competence.
This one's lifted to left field. Ron Gant is under it. Barry Zito has shut out the Texas Rangers. He allows only 5 base hits. He was perfect to the first 11 Rangers he faced tonight.
I think as a pitcher, you know, someone that's in a physical sport, it's all about how it feels. And, you know, they always say, you know, don't think, or you're thinking too much. And what thinking too much does is it takes the feeling out of it. And when you're pitching, you have to feel where your body is in space, how your weight's transferring, and how you're getting, you know, that momentum from the ground up to your fingertips, you know, perfect timing. That's a total feel thing, especially off-speed pitches. I mean, field pitch, they always say change-up's a field pitch. Music's the exact same way, and, you know, these days when I'm in there writing songs, you know, I can see so many different processes over, you know, the days and weeks, you know, because every person that I write with is seeing how that music feels in their gut. If it feels right, or if that lyric feels right, or if it's getting the story across the right way, you move on to the next line or to the next section. If something's weird about it, you stay there and you tinker, and it's a feel thing as much as anything else.
As Barry's days in green and gold were nearing an end, his free agency decision came down to the comfort provided by his strong connection with the Bay Area.
Today we'd like to officially introduce or reintroduce to many of you in the room today the newest Giant, Barry Zito.
I think staying in the Bay Area was a decision I made because it was comfortable to me. I knew, you know, geographically I knew it. I was close to home, which was a huge part of my decision because my mother at that time was not well. And, you know, I had left money on the table, I guess, if you know, that's how you say it, but there was another team out there, and, you know, there was a significant more amount of money out there, but I had to be close to home, and I wanted to be in the Bay. I wasn't prepared, I think, for the level of, you know, the microscope, I guess it would be, and it was just the learning curve and the things that I went through were very difficult, you know, personally and professionally, and I think one was because of the other. You know, those things just taught me so many things about myself.
Gone. High and deep to left. Roberts is going to watch it go.
I remember 2 times specifically that were my rock bottom with San Fran. One was in '08 when I was 0-8, got taken out of the rotation. And I remember just sitting at my house in Marin, and I couldn't sleep at night, and I was just like, I mean, I was like waking up in the middle of the night, like Googling things like how to be like more on top of your game, or how to beat life, you know, or just stupid stuff, but just fishing for answers. And so that was one really tough time. And then about halfway through that year, I just got to the point of like, screw it, you know, and then started pitching pretty well, and was a lot more consistent. So, you know, and then the second time I remember I was sitting in spring training in 2012, and 2010, I was left off the roster of the World Series. 2011, I was hurt most of the year. So 2012, I was sitting in spring training with my wife, and I was like, gosh, man, if, you know, I have 2 years left in this deal, and I'm not a quitter. If there's any time that I want to just shut it down and just like get out of this kind of situation, it's right now. And, you know, I talked with her about it a lot. I prayed about it a lot, and it just didn't make sense for me to do that. During these times, I mean, music played a huge role in my life in San Francisco to just kind of give me something else to focus on, something to come home to, having tough times, you know. I'd pick up the guitar and, you know, I wrote a handful of songs even in just 2011, which was a really tough year for me. You know, and songs that I still really enjoy and still play sometimes if I play out now. And just the journey, you know, of life and figuring out yourself and those things. So, you know, the guitar for me was very therapeutic, and it just gave me a sense of, maybe a sense of control or something. You know, I could pick up that guitar and I could determine more or less where I wanted to go that day, and of course something could always come through unexpected, you know, some inspiration lyrically or musically, but it was just me, and that was my little bubble of control that I loved to come home to, was that guitar.
Having a sense of control is difficult on the diamond, and being able to harness his emotions when dealing with public opinion became a turning point in Zito's career.
It's a double-edged sword to be kind of aware of certain things, to kind of care about people and to care about how people feel and things like this, and to be kind of tuned in. As a person, that is a huge attribute, to just have a conversation with someone and really care about what they're saying. Try to put yourself in their shoes. You know, how are they feeling? What are they experiencing? That is death if you're on the field and you're performing in a sport, certainly at the highest level. When you start to get out of yourself and look back at yourself through the eyes of other people, that's suicide. And that was something that I did many times because I'm a self-conscious person. But for me to master that self-consciousness or that self-awareness and to turn it off out on the field, you know, those were the times when I excelled. And I kind of learned how to do that in San Francisco. And it took me a while to learn it, but I had to get that down. And I think that helps me in anything I'm doing going forward in my life, you know, whether it's writing music and sitting in a room with someone who's got #1 hits on the radio, and I just started last month, you know, I gotta turn that off and I just gotta get to work.
By controlling his focus, Barry had a breakthrough. The new Zito had found his former self, and he began to perform as he'd envisioned when he first became a San Francisco Giant. 2012 was a turning point for the lefty, and fans took notice.
He was magnificent. A 4-hit complete game shutout. So, partner, I've got chills with what this guy's been through, what this means to his teammates.
2012 for me was, I was able to come back, you know, have a pretty good year and help out in the playoffs. And for me, that, I mean, yeah, it vindicated me in a lot of ways. Feeling like I got brought over to San Francisco to help win a world championship. And I was able to do that, you know, 5 years later. But for me, more than anything, it actually was more of a spiritual thing for me, because I don't feel like I can take credit for some of the things I did in those playoff games. I felt like when I just opened up myself and became this kind of like hollow vessel and just go out there and do my best and try to give the rest up to God, or, you know, the baseball gods, or whatever you want to call it. That was when the most magical things happened. You know, when it was me out there doing what I do, you know, I'm gonna do this, it was not good. And I actually did that in the first round that year against Cincinnati. So it was a vast contrast going from that game to the St. Louis game.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a high fastball, and that will end the inning. Strikeout number 5 for Barry Zito.
Zito was magnificent tonight.
Just an incredible performance. Certainly the best outing he's ever had in the Giants uniform.
I remember August of 2013, I had spoke to my agent in LA. We were playing the Dodgers, and I said, I want to take next year off. I'm disenchanted with the game. I just need to take a breather. You know, people in the arts, you know, whether it's musicians or actors, they'll take some time off. They'll take a sabbatical. It's not usually done in sports, because if you lose that momentum, you know, physically and skill-wise, the game will pass you right up. But I did that, and all along, you know, I wanted to get better in every way possible, physically, mechanically, and just see what happened. And I don't think I could walk away from the game without taking some time to really refine my skills, just fall back in love with playing this game to be the best I can be, instead of trying to deliver a product, you know, that I'm trying to sell. So I had a great time training in San Diego all year, and you know, we moved to Houston so I could go train out there, and I mean, it was awesome. I had a really good time. When I was training, I think it took me, you know, 6 months to miss baseball, but I think it was about halfway through the 2014 season when I started to watch games a little more. Certainly watched the Giants, you know, in 2014. I remember sitting in our little apartment in Houston, you know, watching the boys out there doing their thing.
And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the 3rd time in 5 years.
By that point, I was really hungry, and I was now going into an off season like everyone else. So yeah, I mean, it definitely, the flame got reignited.
With his newfound focus to get back to baseball, Barry's future was once again out of his control and in the hands of Major League ball clubs. A decision this go-around, no matter the outcome, he felt at peace with.
Coming back, I mean, it's funny because I was throwing for 5-6 teams in Houston at a local high school, and the A's weren't even part of that, you know? And so I came home one day, I was getting a little anxious. There was about a week left before spring was starting, and a few teams were interested and they wanted to see me throw again. And through my agent, we got a hold of Billy and we just said, you know, what's going on, Billy? You any interest here in bringing Z over? And, you know, Billy's like, you know, I love him. I'll always give him a shot if he wants to come over. And, you know, I think he had told my agent at the time that I might have to pitch in AAA. And I was like, dude, that's great. You know, I've been playing baseball in a park by myself against a net for a year. Like, AAA sounds like a dream. And I had no inclination at that point that there was a move to Nashville. And I was like, that's cool. I've never been there. I always heard great things. So coming back to Nashville, you know, when I took my assignment, people were like, oh, so you're going to take the assignment, huh? I was like, I'm going to live in Nashville and play baseball? Yeah, pretty sure I'm going to do that.
And Zito's 2-2. Allen strikes out swinging.
Zito throws a 4-hit complete game.
I enjoyed, you know, 2015 more than I had in years, just because it was all of those years of learning and, you know, going back and forth and the self-awareness and all those things. And really I could just put all that aside and go play baseball on a beautiful field with high-level competition. Had such a great time. It took me about a month to get in the groove, but once May hit, I was having a great time, and I had a great time the rest of the year.
So we begin with a news alert. It's come full circle for Barry Zito, the 37-year-old former Cy Young Award winner, called up by the A's from AAA Nashville, pitched 7 seasons for Oakland.
After the whole year and then, you know, coming up to Oakland for 3 weeks, I mean, it just was a dream finish. And I think, you know, the icing was going back to Oakland and pitching in the Coliseum, and, you know, even more than that, pitching against the Giants, getting honored on the field with Mulder and Hudson. Those all contributed to me feeling completely at peace with, you know, walking away from the game and just looking ahead to, you know, what's next in my life.
So let's listen to what's going to be a terrific ovation for one Barry Zito.
I knew that was probably going to be it for me, because I knew I was getting what I came back for, you know, just playing for that love of the game, having a good time, having some success out there. So I started to just, you know, meet mutual friends or, you know, friends of friends, whether, you know, they were on the musical side or the production side or the agent side. And I was going out there and just making contacts, you know, and I was just like, hey, you know, I want to get in the songwriting world. I don't want to be an artist, you know, on stage, living that touring life. You know, I've already done that. I want to just get in a room and write great songs and, you know, hopefully get them cut by the real artists out there, you know, in country music. And I think I love country music the most because that's where you can tell the most in-depth stories. I would have never thought that I would have gotten to this point in my life and just hoped that I could be, you know, treated or respected just for the person I am, not for what I've, you know, done statistically in this game. So for me, I couldn't be more smitten with where I'm at and just so grateful for the career I've had and, you know, all the people I've been able to play against and play for.